City this morning, but I was not going to be denied to be here with you this afternoon. Because a little birdie told me that there are some patriots here in Illinois. I believe that this patriot movement is what's going to save this nation. No, not hope, darling. We will save this nation. We will save this nation. Ronald Reagan described it best, that this nation was that shining city on a hill that the rest of the world looked up to, aspired to be like. But within the last few years, that shining city on the hill has slid down to the side of the hill. Only because this nation has become a nation of crises that's dragging us down. We have an economic crisis. We have an entitlement spending crisis. We have an energy crisis. We have an illegal immigration crisis. We have a faulty foreign policy crisis. And the biggest crisis we have is a severe deficiency of leadership in Washington, D.C. But the good news is, even though the American dream is under attack,
yes,
we can take it back. We can take it back. I'm absolutely convinced of that. Because if you look throughout the history of the United States of America in this young history, it's the American people who have always risen to the occasion. Look at the tough times we have been through. The founding fathers, they got it right. The founding fathers envisioned this great nation when they envisioned the Declaration of Independence, and they envisioned the Constitution of the United States of America. The founding fathers got it right when they decided that they wanted to start this great nation. They didn't have a poll that said that everybody agreed. It took a few passionate patriots to decide to start this nation, and it's going to take a few passionate patriots to save this nation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal. That they are endowed by their Creator, not the government, not politicians, by their Creator, with certain unalienable rights. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Did you notice they said that among these, which meant that there might have been some others? I happen to think that there were some others. In addition to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that they also probably included the other unalienable rights. The right to protect yourself, to protect your family, and protect your family. It's called the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America. Don't mess with the Second Amendment. I kind of like clinging to my guns and Bibles. And I'm not going to let it go. The founding fathers got it right. They also got it right when they added the second paragraph to that. I had a caller to my radio show one night. You know, I used to be in radio. You may not remember that. But But you see, when you run for president, you have to become unemployed. I had a caller to my radio show one night who called up and said, Mr. Cain, I'm very frustrated. I said, why are you frustrated, young man? I'm very frustrated because I don't like the direction of this country. And I'm frustrated because I don't know what to do about it. He said, well, are you a registered voter? Yes. Do you vote in all of the elections? Yes. All right. Do you have a copy of the Declaration of Independence? He said, yes, I do. I said, go get it. He went and got his copy of the Declaration of Independence. Came back. I said, now turn to the part that talks about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I heard him flick at the pages. He says, I found it. I said, okay. You see the part that says life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? He said, yes, sir. Here's what you can do to help this nation if you're frustrated. Keep reading. Because it says when any form of government become destructive of those ideals, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. We've got some altering and some abolishing to do. Alter and abolish. It's our right. It's our right. Because the American dream is under attack and we've become a nation of crises, we got to alter the occupant of the White House in November 2012. And one of the things that many of you all know about me is that I like to talk about how we fix stuff. We know what all of the crises are. How do we fix it? Well, let's start, well, we're going to do that too. Well, let's start with the biggest domestic one that we have. National security is an issue. It is a big issue because this nation is weaker as a result of this administration. And our other biggest one is this economic crisis that we face. Our economy is on life support. Our economy is on life support. It is not only an economic imperative, it is a national security imperative. Because if we do not get this economy growing the way it can grow, we're going to continue to argue over what to cut, when to cut it, and who to cut. I want to spend money to build up our defense, build up our intelligence capabilities, build up our strategic ballistic missile capability, not put a bullseye on the back of our defense department. Our men and women in uniform do not deserve to be the subject of what's going to be cut next. The world is not safer. So we need to be focusing on the right priorities. And it starts with making sure that we get this economy growing. Here's my solution. First, throw out the current tax code. It's a mess. The current tax code is used for government and the bureaucrats to pick winners and losers. It's used to harass us. It costs us collectively $430 billion a year to file and comply. So the first thing we do is we throw it out and we put in a solution that I have developed along with my team. It's called the 999 plan. It imposes a 9% business tax, flat tax, a 9% personal flat tax, and a 9% national sales tax. It would replace the payroll tax, the capital gains tax, the death tax, the corporate income tax, and the personal income tax, all with a simpler, fairer structure that's fair to everybody for a change. Now, when I presented this solution to some of the skeptics in Washington, D.C., they would say to me, Mr. Cain, good, but you can't do that. I said, why? If I'm the president, I thought I'd be able to do that. Do you know something I don't know? Well, Mr. Cain, you don't know how Washington works. Yes, I do. It doesn't. My job is to make it work right. And here's the reason we're going to be able to pass the 999 plan within the first 90 days of my administration. Because if the people understand it, they will support it and they will demand it. And there's an old saying that was popularized by Senator Eric Dirksen: when they feel the heat, they will see the light. I'm going to get the legislation introduced. You're going to be the heat to put on Congress to get it passed within the first 90 days. America cannot wait. They didn't give me enough time to tell you how I'm going to solve all the problems. But let me tell you how I'm going to approach all of the problems. When I was a ballistic analyst early in my career, working for the Department of the Navy, I was a ballistics analyst. My job was to figure out the fire control parameters that would go into the fire control computer in order to determine how we were going to destroy a target using the firepower that was available on our naval ships and our fighter aircraft. And in doing a ballistic analysis, you always start with one fundamental question. Where's the target? I know that might seem like common sense. Where's the target? It didn't matter how sophisticated the weapon was if you didn't know what target you were trying to take out. Well, the same thing is true in Washington, D.C. What's the right problem we ought to be working on? If we're not working on the right problem, we're not going to get the right solution. We need to make sure we're working on the right problem. We need to make sure that we're assigning the right priorities, that I surround myself with the right people so we can then put together the right plan to fix stuff in Washington, D.C. What's the problem? Energy? I can tell you what the Cain doctrine would be. It would not be to go to another country and loan them $2 billion and then say we're going to be their best customer. Let me tell you what the Cain doctrine is going to be. We're going to be our own best customer. They say it again, this is Mr. Cain, that sounds good, but you can't do that. Why is it that people keep trying to tell me what I can't do? That's the last thing that you ought to tell me. Well, Mr. Cain, you can't do that because the EPA won't let you. Let me just say this as politically correct as I can. That's not my strong point. The EPA will get an attitude adjustment with the Herman Cain administration. They work for us. We don't work for them. We set the rules. What we need to do. We've got the resources to become energy independent, and guess what? We will in a Cain administration. We have a foggy foreign policy crisis. Let me tell you my approach to foreign policy. Very quickly. I'll be done. Like I said, you got to have an approach and a philosophy. I do. If you don't know what the target is, you're not going to be able to destroy it. If you don't know what the problem is, you're not going to be able to fix it. It's real simple. Foreign policy. I've been criticized for not having extensive foreign policy experience. And the guy there now does. Is this a double standard that I missed? But at least I have a philosophy to foreign policy. That's where you start. With a sound philosophy based upon sound principles. And my philosophy, the foreign policy, is an extension of the Reagan philosophy. Reagan said, peace through strength. Is an extension of that. Peace through strength and clarity. We must clarify who our friends are, make it clear who our enemies are, and stop giving money to our enemies. Clarity. We must make clear who our friends are so we can tell the rest of the world who our friends are, such that if they attack or intimidate one of our friends, they know exactly where the United States of America is going to be. That's the advantage of knowing who your friends are. And I can tell you right now, I don't need to do a sophisticated analysis to be able to tell the rest of the world Israel is our friend. You mess with Israel, last August, and I had an opportunity to visit a lot of the holy sites. Being a lifelong Christian, that was a wonderful experience. But I also had an opportunity to meet with some of the Israeli officials, one of which was the Deputy Prime Minister of Israel. We had a very nice conversation for about 45 minutes, and to hear him describe what it's like to live in that part of the world surrounded by a lot of your enemies is a very telling experience. And two things that he said to me. He said, first, Israel will protect itself, given all the tension that's going on in that part of the world. And he said, secondly, right now we do not know where this administration in the United States stands with Israel. And it's very frustrating. I said, I do understand, and I understand the reasons why. I said, well, in a Cain administration, there would be no question as to where the United States stands. But we have the ability, folks, to fix all of our problems. If we make the changes that we need to make in Washington, D.C., and I happen to believe that this movement that's going on across this country that you are a part of is going to make those changes. Last weekend in Florida, at their straw poll, they sent a message to the media and they sent a message to the establishment. They sent two messages. That's what that victory was all about. Number one, the voice of the people is more powerful than the voice of the media in terms of who you want your nominee to be. That straw poll victory in Florida last weekend. By the way, if you didn't hear, Herman Cain won it. Just in case you all were too busy. The second message was this. Message is more important than money. My two competitors that came in second and third, they spent a lot of money trying to influence that vote. We rented a bus and went and talked to folks. And we talked about 999. We talked about working on the right problems. We talked about putting putting this nation back on the right track. And when you talk to people and you have common sense solutions, it resonates with them. And they basically say, you're not going to buy our votes with fancy advertising and fancy robocalls and things of that nature. The message that the American people are sending to Washington, D.C. is that we the people are still in charge of this country. So I encourage you to continue your fight, continue your involvement. 3 things we got to do, folks, in order to win. I know we can, or I wouldn't be doing this, and you wouldn't be doing this. First, stay informed. That's why you're here. There's a lot of disinformation out there. There are a lot of lies out there on the internet. They've even started to put a lot of lies out there about me since I've been moving up in the polls. So you got to stay informed, because stupid people are running America. Y'all can't be amongst the stupid. Y'all got to be amongst the informed ones. So you got to stay informed so you will know the facts, so you'll be able to refute some of this garbage that's out there when they have a tendency to try to discourage you and discourage your neighbors from participating in events. Secondly, stay involved. Don't be ashamed to come to events like this. Don't be ashamed to go to tea parties. No, it is your right and your responsibility to speak your mind. And your right and your responsibility to be constructive and critical of what's going on. And then the third thing is stay inspired. They want you to believe that we cannot do this. They want you to believe that because President Barack Obama is a smooth talker, that he can't be beat. You've got 40% of the people, sometimes it's 38% of the people who believe that he's doing a good job. They are amongst the clueless. But let me tell you how we win. We don't have to convert the clueless to take back the White House, to take back control of the Senate, and maintain control of the House of Representatives. We just have to save the saleable. Our job is to make sure that you get conservatives to the poll. Don't stay home the next time because you don't like the candidate. Make sure that we get our message out to independents and all of the moderates out there. This is how we're going to win. And don't be afraid of the fact that President Obama says he's going to raise $1 billion in order to buy a second term. Let me tell you what the American people are saying. You might be able to raise $1 billion to try to buy a second term, but the American people are going to raise some cane in 2012. Cane will feed $1 billion in and there. I ain't scared. Bring it on. Bring it on. You're here for many of the same reasons that I'm here. I've been inspired to do this for a whole lot of reasons. One of the reasons that I'm inspired to do this is because of something that happened 12 years ago. My first grandchild was born. When I first looked into her little face, 15 minutes after she was born, the first thought, education, how do I give her a good start in life? The first thought that went through my mind was, what do I do to make this a better nation and a better world? I didn't know the answer then. And we all go through life, and we may not know the answer to some things until God is ready for us to know the answer. I happen to believe that there are two plans in life. There's your plan, and then there's God's plan. God allowed me to achieve my American dreams and then some. And then he slapped me upside the face and says, okay, now I want you to do something that I want you to do. And that is to help get this nation back on the right track. And that's part of my inspiration for doing this. And let me leave you with this. I started with Reagan, one of our greatest presidents, when he talked about that shining city on a hill. We've slid down a little bit on the hillside, folks. Reagan also reminded us about this precious thing we're fighting for called freedom. And he said freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. You can't pass it on in the bloodstream. It must be fought for and protected. Or one day, we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our grandchildren what the United States of America used to be like when men were free. I'm not going to have that conversation with my grandkids. And I know you don't want to have that conversation with your grandkids. You know, the bottom line is it ain't about us. It's about the grandkids. So I ask you today, send a message to Washington, D.C. Send a message to the mainstream media. Let them know that we are going to take that shining city on the side of the hill and move it back to the top of the hill where it belongs.